surprising. Well, this thing says I'm live.
Don't trust it. Don't trust it.
I don't. Well, it's another Sunday evening. All's as well as it can be.
That's funny, Johnny.
Well, dang, if I'd seen that first, I'd have waited till a minute after.
It popped up by the time you went live. Corn dog. You ate the last corn dog and you didn't share?
We're going to say it was the last Hot Pocket. I mean,
Yeah, okay.
there's a joke out of that from a story I told her about years ago. I worked at a place. There was this young girl. She was recently married. And her and her young husband, and they had a rocky relationship. And she was having a bad day. I asked her. I said, "What's up? Why you in such an ill mood?" She said, "We got in an argument. He got mad at me because I ate the last Hot Pocket." I looked at her funny. Mama Bear ain't done.
Hey, Mama Bear.
I looked at her funny. He got mad because you ate the last Hot Pocket. I told her, I said, "Girl, you might want to rethink being with that boy." She wound up taking her wedding ring off and tossing it on the way down the road. I mean, seriously. You're a young couple together. Me and Elaine, we'll take pains at trying to make sure each other is the one to get the last of something.
Hey, Troy Sutton.
Troy! Mama Bear, Melinda, Mama Linda, Johnny, Josie. How y'all doing? I'm doing fine as mine, but you can't tell it. So anyway, I told her about that story, and it became a joke between us.
Hey, Chris.
Chris, how's that Raymond doing? He's surviving all right over where he moved to. So anyway, we've made it a joke. Something similar will come up and say, "Yeah, I know. I just ate the last Hot Pocket."
I
Great.
did the last Hot Pocket. Them things are nasty.
Yeah, but it's not always. It's been something else.
Right. Miss Rita, hello. And Rita's roosting the limping old farmer. So that's Miss Rita and Mr. Terry.
Yeah, I need to check that one out. I like that old man. He got a lot of interesting stuff. I like that one old tractor he uses to plow a garden. I used to look at it funny because the driver, where the seat and the steering wheel are, seemed a little offset from the tractor. And I got to thinking about it. I said, "Oh, okay, I see. Help you keep the line straight as you're going down through there." That's an awesome idea.
So she's kind of sort of abandoned that channel, just added it to hers. Okay.
Okay, well, I can see that. He probably don't want to mess with the editing and YouTube and all like that. But is okay with helping you provide the content.
Hey, hey, Melinda, he can have the last one of those too. That nasty stuff.
Yeah, Melinda, she don't mess with that. She's a total lightweight.
If I drink anything, it's an adult mixed beverage.
And she can't drink but half of that and not be loopy.
Hey, I drank that whole one.
And you were real loopy.
Yeah, well.
If you hadn't had a meal with it, I'd have been getting staff there to help me walk you out to the car.
Yeah. And I did drink it over an hour's time along with another non-alcoholic beverage.
And a full meal.
And a full meal.
And then she was still a little wobbly. Cool beans. Oh, Ray, as he gets more used to it, he'll give you more.
If she nags.
So what?
So they'll use a tiny bit of material if she nags.
Oh, he likes doing it a little bit. He just don't want to tell you he likes doing it a little bit. It's a man thing. Sometimes some things we don't like to admit to. Well, Miss Rita, after as long as y'all been married, he's used to it and he likes it. And it's kind of like if he just gives it to you, if it don't feel right because you didn't nag him for it. And then he gets a little upset with you for nagging and
yeah, I pretty much staffed the camera on Piggy's live, Sonny.
And other things can result after that. You know, kind of makes it a little fun.
That's right, Chris.
You know, like they've always said, the making up is the best part.
Yeah. Feeling better than I did yesterday, but I'm still getting there.
Oh, when I've heard her snore, it's the cutest little thing. I just can't help but smile and almost laugh about it because it's so cute.
He's heard me when I've been real tired too, and I can cut some trees.
Before we figured out what caused my sleep apnea, which was the B12, and started taking it, she can tell you I could raise a roof snoring.
Oh yeah.
When she was going through her cancer in the hospital, there was one night my mask, I was kind of cramped up in a little window cushion that they had for you to sit and lay on. Sleeping and my mask would come off some. And boy, I was causing a ruckus. There was nurses who had come from the far end of that floor. And I mean, it's a long ways. They'd come in her room to check on her to see what was up. I was snoring so loud. I imagine there weren't nobody else getting no sleep because of how I was snoring. Because like I said, they was coming from the far end. That was what, a good 100 yards? Longer?
Well, maybe longer because it's like us almost at one end of the hall.
You were at one end of the hall.
They were coming from that far end of the hall.
Yeah, y'all know how they have a nurse's station at one end and a nurse's station at the other end? Well, they was coming from the nurse's station from the far end. Coming in to check on her to see what was up because of how loud I was snoring.
Yeah.
But they all knew how I was staying there and up and down and all like that. So, plus having my CPAP there with me to sleep with, They come running to check, see what was up.
Mhm. Yeah, Chris. I've been around when some of the dogs snore louder than those around me did too.
Indiana, get her some B12 and have her start taking it. See if it don't help. I was on a CPAP at level 14. I had it bad. She got to looking into stuff, and it come before her, talking about B12 being the lack of B12 being the cause of most people's sleep apnea. And so she got me some. In a month's time, I was off that CPAP. Not saying it'll solve it for her. Couldn't hurt to try. Well, it's good for more than working out, Chris. Because that's what I take. It got me off the CPAP. When I go to sleep, I lay there like a log and don't move, mostly. Now, it has been some nights she's told me, she's had to duck and weave like Mike Tyson because my right arm gets a mind of its own and it jerks and snaps and all that. I wouldn't have thought it was funny either.
It's like an elbow.
Yeah. She had anything that caused any effect on her nervous system, that would explain the elbow.
Unless she's giving him the elbow to shut him up from snoring.
Right? That or her subconscious is taking some perceived wrong you did to her. You can't take care of it consciously, but her subconscious says, yeah, buddy, it's on. She ever in the background when you're listening to me? Restless elbow syndrome. There's always something in the subconscious and the nerves causing that, Chris. It's psychological. Subconscious can get away with things that the conscious can't. So if you're not giving her a hard time about some stuff, guess what? That's her get back. Oh, okay. Too bad she's not in there right now. She could be hearing me say that.
I know the feeling, Mama Lynn. It takes me a while to eat now, too.
Yeah. We had us some more of that French toast with that Royal bread. I'm going to start putting little shout outs to Royal for her to put things in the description for. I'll tell you what. And yesterday we had a bagel with cream cheese. It was yesterday, right?
Yeah.
Last night.
Yeah.
Folks, I'm going to tell you, it was good. I am shocked and amazed. I'm old Southern boy likes my taters and meat. Ain't too much for that keto stuff. But I have to admit, that's some good stuff. Y'all need to grab that link and get 10%. check it out. No, she didn't go live last night. She wasn't feeling it.
Last night was not a good night for me.
Right. I'm gonna duck for a second. Yeah, that Royo, it shocked me. I was impressed. That was what, my third set of French toast with that. This morning, man, that was good. Had me 3 of them and part of hers. She wasn't able to eat all of it. But anywho. Yeah, I think she put out a short saying she wasn't going to go live.
Yeah.
She got quite a response on that too. What was it? 1-something-thousand?
Got it right at 1,200.
1,200?
1,200 views.
That was kind of surprising. Yeah, we understand taking a while, son. Sometimes you'll fix a little something. I mean, just a itty bitty something. Might take me 30 minutes to get done. Depending on what it is. If it takes a little more effort chewing, it'd be an hour. Yeah, it was nice. That was shocking for a short. Well, they say tomorrow's Memorial Day.
Yeah.
People get out and party and all like that, not realizing that they have that day due to the sacrifice of many men and women who gave their lives for that freedom.
Yeah, I'm fixing to do a potato salad video here after Piggy goes off.
Yeah, that dude, what's his name? Tom something. Anyway, Hangover Gang. That white tatted up rapper guy that does a lot of good stuff.
Tom McDonald.
Tom McDonald. He did one just for Memorial Day. It touched my heart. I commented and thanked him for that one because it touched me. And I like that guy. He does his songs. He's talking truth. Oh, that's cool. Sometimes the shorts do better. They're like little advertisements, giving people a glimpse of who you are and how you are. And they've been known to help people's numbers grow because they are like a little ad.
Yeah.
Like, hey, how you doing? This is who I am. What you got going on? But anyway, it's Memorial Day, and we honor those who made the ultimate sacrifice and gave their lives in order for us to have the freedoms that we still have. And there's no way to thank them enough for their sacrifice.
That's true.
That's what I went in to do, but God had other plans. When I went in the service, I went to die. I went to give my life for something greater than me. God said, no, I'm going to put you with a unit that lost their colors and don't go nowhere. And unit I was in lost their colors in World War II. So they were punished by no longer being uh, worthy of going on floats and different things. Although I had plenty of close calls, even in exercises. Had a tank round land about 100 feet away from my Jeep as we were driving along. My Jeep was sitting there doing this from the concussion off of that thing. Tech staff sergeant that was echelon 5 level tech working on the radios and stuff. He turned around sideways and he said, well, I can't say what he said. He looked back at me and said, you didn't see that? I'm like, well, I felt something rocking the Jeep. What was it? He said it was a tank round about 100 feet away. I was kind of like, oh, well, his eyeballs got that big around looking at me because I didn't give a you know what. I figured it like this. If it's God's time for me to go, it's God's time for me to go. Until then, I ain't going nowhere. Just tooling along a desert trail, going on to the next spot we're going to. Boom! Boom! I'm just sitting there, going with it. The staff sergeant, he, like I said, he was a tech. He was a putty. Got to where we was going. We were positioned next to a tank. I was tired. I went to sleep. I probably wasn't 10, 12 feet from the tracks on that thing. Just sleep it away. Well, it had just got done with a live fire exercise. I woke up and one of my buddies like, you slept through that? Through what? You didn't hear that tank firing off? No. Holy crap. I was tired. I knew I was in a safe spot. I slept. There's one night, we was among places, a lot of types of rocks around. There was one big rock, had like a little crevice underneath it on one side of it. I wrapped up my stuff and curled around that crevice, became part of the rock. Had one of my corporals looking for me. It was nighttime. Had one of my corporals looking for me. They went up and down, hollering my name. I finally turned around and I said, what? He said, where you been? I said, I've been right here. Well, I didn't tell you. I said, that was the point. I was good at my job, folks. If he'd have been an enemy, he'd have been dead. And I wouldn't use my pew-pews either. I had a bayonet. I was good at my job. I was a radio operator, but I was still a basic rifleman, a basic Marine. Got to prove myself in boot camp. In combat, I'd have been deadly. My DI's got to see, had 4 Piggy Stick fights. The first 3, I never got touched. In half a second, it was over. Somebody was knocked out, getting carried off the ring. That 4th one that hurt. They wanted to see if I could take a hit as well as hit. They also wanted to see what I'd do. Folks, the monster they set me up against, holy crap. From across the way, his arms looked like two of his buddies still getting him ready, and then I noticed his buddies were coming with him out into the ring. And I was like, oh crap, I've heard of 2-on-1, but 3? It didn't take me long to figure out his buddies were his arms. He was like a freaking mountain, black mountain, walking out into that ring, and I was like, oh crap. Like, oh man, this is gonna hurt. That whistle blew, I did my signature move, and all I hit was air this time. And I was like, oh crap, this is gonna hurt. So my DIs was also saying what I was gonna do there, if I'd take a fall or if I'd fight. I fought to the bitter end. But he failed in his mission to knock me out. I lost the fight, but it amped up my buddies enough. We won the war. And I walked off in the right direction, walking like a drunk sailor from side to side. One of my DIs met me at the end of it. Like, Sammer, you all right? Yes, sir. Think you can make it to the barracks from here? Yes, sir. All right, go on. We'll be there shortly. Yes, sir. Walked on off. First time one of my DIs ever showed they cared. But while the fight was going on, me and that dude going around circles. I was blocking his hits. He was blocking mine. I felt like I was hitting a huge oak tree when I hit him. I felt like I was being nailed down into the sand when he hit me. While we was going around and around, blind as I am, off to the side of the ring, pretty good ways, I could see his DIs and my DIs sitting there looking at each other doing this right here. I was like, oh crap, I've been set up. He hit me again. He hit me so hard I didn't feel the pain. I looked off to my right, looking for my head about 20 feet away. Literally. I thought he'd done knocked my head off. I was looking for it. Like some of those cartoons, movies, or whatever you see, and it shows the head coming off, and you see the body reaching around for the head. That's what I felt like. But when buddies came to pick me up, I shoved them off to the side and got up on my feet, turned around towards my buddies, and walked off. So my DI's got to find out. I'll fight to the bitter end.
Hi, Lynn. All right, Linda, we'll see when you get back.
Lynn! How you doing? They also found out I could take a hit. So I know that in combat, I'd have done what I had to do and I'd have been deadly. So anyway, used to always think, had a group of non-vets I talked to a lot on Facebook before I closed that page down and went away from Facebook for a while. And I tell them, y'all my heroes. Because of what y'all did in Nam. Y'all blazed trails for the rest of us to learn from. But my comm chief, who was a 4-tour back-to-back non-vet, I had expressed that to him once. And he told me, he said, no, I ain't no hero. He said, I got to walk beside a few, though. Buddies that died. So I can say I got to learn under some folks that got to walk beside a few heroes. Yeah, that's making me a little emotional. I'm gonna duck down for a second. So anyway, a hero is somebody who has died in combat. Everybody else survived. They're not the heroes. They're brave, a lot of courage. Don't get me wrong. But the heroes are the ones who had that check cashed in and didn't make it back. So even though I didn't know any heroes, I got to train under those who did get to walk beside a few heroes. So for me, Memorial Day is about celebrating the heroes. The one who had that blank check cashed in on them. Oh, that sounds good, Johnny. Pico de gallo.
Love the pico.
Well, Indiana Chris, that's why he said that. He got to walk beside a few that were. Some of the heroes are the ones who ran into machine gun fire to take out what they could to make way for others coming behind them so they could advance. Heroes were the ones who would jump on a grenade to take the blow to save their buddies. The heroes were the ones who'd get in the way of live fire to protect the officer that was with them. So the officer could still lead the rest of his men on or to safety. That's right, Melinda. That might burn a little bit. Brave man, Chris. But he's right to tell you he wasn't a hero. He did some brave things, obviously. The heroes are the ones that died on those battlefields. The ones that saw a danger fixing to come and stood in front of it to protect the rest so they could respond to the threat. They laid down their lives for their buddies so their buddies could finish the job. That's a hero. Oh, cool. Badass. When I got my MOS in boot camp, the DI would go around telling everybody what their MOS was and the number of it and what it was. DI came around to me, senior DI, handed me my orders, and he said, 2531, radio operator. 3 seconds life expectancy on the battlefield. That's 1.5 seconds longer than the officer next to you. Because in combat, they'd look for the radio. And whoever was beside the radio man would be the officer. So they'd shoot the officer first. When they spotted the radio, they'd shoot the officer first, then they'd shoot the radio. Sometimes the radio man survived because they'd hit the radio and not the man. But then there they'd be with no communication. Again, Chris, badass. I met a man once at a courthouse. He saw my hat, I saw his. He was a Korean War vet. There's two bad things, two really bad occurrences during the Korean War. Frozen Chosen was one of them. I think it was Frozen Chosen. He had another name for it. It was actual cities.
Hi, Derek. Welcome in.
Derek! And we greeted each other. I shook his hand. It was an honor for me. He had representations of medals he'd received in wartime. I couldn't hold a candle. And as much older as he was than me, having survived what he did, even as a old Marine now, young buck to him, I wouldn't have messed with him. Nice as he was, if you threatened him, I guarantee you he would show you a thing or two. It was like my comm chief, Top Franquist. He was in his late 30s. 80% disabled. Young and strong as I was, I wouldn't have messed with him. I'd have learned some things that Recon's still learning the hard way. That's called respect, folks. A lot of people don't know what they're messing with. Worked at a place. It was this young boy, not that much younger than me, but I was in my mid-late 20s. And he liked to do stuff to spook me. One night, he'd come up behind me. Everything's loud, so you can't really hear anything. I was around touching machines. And got so bad. One night, he'd come up behind me and spook me while I was at my desk. And I was literally that far from his nose with my fist before I was able to stop. It was just that quick. He's sitting there laughing, thought it was funny. He had an uncle that been through Nam and had flashbacks. They like to do things to cause him to have flashbacks. And I told him, I said, y'all gonna wake up one day dead. I said, it ain't a laughing matter. I finally had to go to my bosses and tell them about the whole thing. And I told them, I said, up till now, I've been able to control it. I said, but last night I was an inch away from his nose before I could stop, before I realized what was going on. I said, I'm a former Marine. Y'all know it. I'm well trained. Y'all know it. I said, that boy's going to push it one day, and I'm not going to be able to stop before I hurt him. And it's not going to be my fault. It's going to be his, and it's going to be on y'all for not having done something about it yet, because I done told him about it. But I told him, I said, it's coming real close to a time when I'm not going to be able to catch myself. And he's going to be bad hurt, and it's going to be on y'all. I said, y'all either move him, or he's going to wind up hurt bad. The next night, he was far away from my position in a whole totally different section. They finally heeded my warning. Because I let them know. And folks, I in the times of need, I have been able to pull off feats of strength y'all wouldn't think possible, especially for my size. I've bench pressed the front of a Trans Am. I've ripped a 6-inch thick piece of concrete out of the curbing that only had like a quarter-inch, half-inch crack in it up out of the ground from being pissed off. I took a big mailbox and karate chopped it and crushed the thing as an afterthought. And I mean, it, middle of it all the way down to the bottom. And I don't reckon I could do it now. I'm too bad a shape. But then I had a natural strength, and then I had a pissed off strength. And it was hard to control. I wasn't allowed to knowingly fight someone with intent. Went to hit one of my buddies one day because he pissed me off. I was mad. And when my hit landed, it was like a feather, and he looked at me and he said, "What was that?" God did not let me use my strength against someone in that way. Inanimate objects, no problem. But because if I'd hit that boy, pissed off as I was that day, and have been allowed to use the strength that I sometimes have with that type of move, he would never have gotten up again. And that's a scary thing to know. Know you got that kind of strength. Even when not being totally pissed. I wasn't totally pissed at him. But he wouldn't have got back up if I'd been allowed to use the strength I put into that blow that I attempted. Troy, I can only know what a solid moment that must have been for you. But anyway, I always use my strength for good. Help people out, like the Trans Am. My buddy was trying to take a starter off of his 79 Trans Am. So he'd go replace it because it was broken, would hang down and not connect. So he had to get up under it, push it up for it to connect, and then hit the switch. Well, he got stuck being up under it. So I got up under the front, saw the sway bar up above me. I grabbed it and I pushed. The tires weren't completely off the ground, but they were completely round. They had no pressure on them. And he got done with doing what he had to do. And I finally asked him, I said, "You got done under it?" He said, "Oh, yeah, I'm up out of there." I let the car down. Got back out from under it, and we was both standing in front of it. See, it hadn't hit me yet. He told me, he said, "Man, that's just all right." I said, "What's that?" "Having your own personal human jack." That's when it hit me what I'd done. I looked at my arms. I was like, holy crap. There was a need. Moving people. I could move massive amounts of weight at one time. Get people moved. I could throw a big old couch up on my head and walk with it and take it where it needed to go. No problem. I'm not talking about those light ones either. I'm talking about the heavy ones. Sometimes the sleeper sofas. Pick them right up, put them on my head, and go. And sometimes while carrying something else in my hands. you know, not trying to brag about what I could do, just that I had the ability to do it. And I always tried to use it for good. And if ever I was really ticked off, I always tried to find something inanimate to take that anger out on, which would help deflate my anger by doing it. Like that 6-foot piece of concrete curbing, 6 foot long, 6 inches thick, about 300 pounds, and I ripped it up out of the ground like it were nothing. I didn't even hear the cracking. I was so pissed. Then I tossed it about 6 to 10 feet. And I was deflated. Some of the people I was hanging out with sent somebody to follow me to make sure I'd be all right. And he was following me at a somewhat distance, but still kind of close. He doubled his distance after he saw me do that. So I asked him later, I said, how big was that thing really? I said, because I saw something about like that. Thought about maybe that thing. And he said, no. He said it was about 6 foot long, about 300 pounds. He said, you ripped it right up out of the ground, still concreted in most of the way except for that little crack. Got scared me. I was thankful I'd go for something inanimate. That scared me. To know I had that kind of strength. That's why I'd never fight. Several fugal sticks where I had to, a certain way. Wasn't nothing personal, nothing to get mad at. It's just something I had to do. But in an uncontrolled situation, what if I'd hurt somebody that didn't deserve it? That's why I've always kept a tight rein on that part of me. Even now, being disabled, it still scares me because if I get in that state of mind, I'm afraid that, I could still hurt somebody. Between what strength I've got left and certain knowledge I have. It's a scary thing. That's why I'm a warrior. That's why I would have done okay. But I never got to put that to the test. God had other ideas. But I always tried to live under the saying of those with strength and power should be there to help others that are weaker, not hurt them. Teach them, guide them. Never hurt, never harm. So, but I also had the knowledge that had I had to go to combat, whether I survived or not, I'd have done well. I'd have done what was needed to be done, what had to be done. But like all men who have seen combat, I don't know how well my mind would have took it when it was done. Now, I'm kind of like life is what it is, what happens, happens, it's got to be. And I probably would have looked at it in that lens and everything. But still, it was never tested, so I don't know for certain. So I understand why a lot of my buddies stay drunk a lot, drink a lot, smoke them some dope. Not because they're hooked on that shit. It's because they're trying to deal with what they had to do. And to still survive and to still function in life. You know, I have to say, hats off to those folks. Because it's not doing what you have to do while you have to do it. It's trying to live with it and deal with it as a normal person in regular life after you've done your bit. So, Chris, that's why your granddaddy is correct in saying he ain't no hero. The heroes died on those battlefields. That's good, Mama Linda. I'm glad you was able to do that. And you know yourself what I'm talking about. It's not those who survived that are heroes. It's those who gave their lives on that battlefield. They're the heroes. Which is what makes Memorial Day such a solemn day. Because we recognize those heroes. And that's right, Johnny Small Pepper. Amen. Yeah. I served. I did my bit. People thank me. Great. I appreciate you recognizing. If you really want to thank me, honor our honored dead. Best way anybody could thank me. Recognize the heroes that actually paid the price of freedom. I helped in what other way I did. But I didn't pay the price of freedom. I was there and ready, but it was never required of me. Again, God had other plans for me. That's not how I was to die. Part of me regrets it. But, you know, sometimes it's harder to go on than to sacrifice your own life. Sometimes it's harder to deal with the memories of those who did and to continue on in life. But if that's what God's got for you to do, then that's what God's got for you to do. And you better buckle up, strap up, and get on with it. Because this life there's only one way out, and it's whatever way God's already got planned. And until God says it's time for that event, you ain't going nowhere. I know, Melinda. I know. But since that's not what God's had for me and had untold numbers of close calls where I could have, had 3 times where I did, and God still brought me through those events, plus my injury and results from that injury. God brought me through that. So I'm just here till God says otherwise. So He's got things for me to do.
That's happy.
So next to the heroes are those who saw the heroes give their lives, like that one you mentioned, Chris. He had to continue on, having seen what he seen, and try to live his life accordingly as best he could. Of course, that's one thing too about that generation. They had stronger minds than we do today, as well as stronger bodies. They were able to deal with it a little bit better because they knew life is life and war is war, and what had to be done had to be done. Regrettable, yeah, but what has to be has to be. Like I told that one young boy once, what is has to be because it's already been done. You'll note there's a few different uh, tenses of time in that. Because for God, this is already done. It's already history. God already wrote it. He done ended the story and closed the book. We read that book and we live each day as a page from that book. When we we'll be catapulted into real time with God. There's a hint to that in the Bible. When John the Revelator was called up and the heavens opened to him, a figure appeared there and said, "Come up hither." It wasn't an angel. A lot of people like to say heaven is empty because the rapture and other things hasn't taken place. Oh no, it ain't empty. It was in a white robe like of the elders, the 24 elders that are spoke of. That was who called him up. So there's like a window in time between two timelines. And that elder was calling John up to show him things to come because it's already been done. We struggle through it now, but we're actually living a living history. We're being tested. We're being tried. We're being put through that fire to see whom we shall choose. And if we hang on to the end. And when that end comes, we'll be catapulted to that future that already exists, that we're unaware of because we're living in a history, in a time that's already done. Like Jesus on the cross said, "It is finished." It is done. It's all done. We just got to live through it and hang on until we're found worthy and are allowed to pass from this world, this virtual reality, into the real and present time of God. I know for some of y'all that's going to be a little hard to digest. Johnny, I think you probably are right there with me on it. You are a man of exceptional intelligence. So you probably right there with me. You probably get everything I'm saying to a T. Now, I'm not doubting any of the rest of you. I'm just saying it's hard for a lot of folks. Not because of a lack of intelligence, but because of other things. you know, because it's hard for some folks to be able to think in such an abstract way. That's why I point out Johnny, because he's got the type of intelligence that can really grasp abstract ideas, hard ones. But anyway, I've been on here about an hour. She's got a video she wants to do. Shout out to all of you. Love you all. Thank you for being here. Y'all have a good Memorial Day and honor the heroes as best you can. Y'all think about it. Piggy loves you.